Player development is the name of the game. Whether it be through the NFL free agency or the draft, all the teams in the league are constantly looking to bolster their rosters with young talent that they can hopefully mold into something more than what they were when they walked into camp. So for that reason, in this video, I'm going to give you all my thoughts on 5 Carolina Panthers upcoming free agents after the 2023 season. I'm going to let you know whether or not I believe they deserve the bag and they should stay around, or if I'm comfortable with the team letting them go seek employment elsewhere. And we're going to get into all of that good stuff right after this.
I'm from the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe, as I am almost to 2K and on my way to getting my channel popping before the games start next season. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to these players. Now, the first player that is going to be coming up in this upcoming cycle of free agency after this 2023 season is Bravvion Roy, who was drafted in the 6th round, 184th overall in the 2020 draft. So far through 3 seasons in the NFL, Bravvion Roy has been active and appeared in 45 games, and he has had 15 starts. 9 of those being during his rookie season, which can be seen as his best season so far, where he played alongside Derrick Brown, who was also drafted this year, but who was drafted in the 1st round and does have a 5th round option. So his contract is not up just yet, so we'll be discussing him in a different video. But he did play 9 games alongside Derrick Brown before he unfortunately was moved to the backup role with the acquisition of Matt Ioannidis in the offseason. But in 45 games, Bravvion Roy has had 76 tackles, 8 QB hits, 3 tackles for loss, 3 pass deflections, 1 sack, 1 interception, and all of that was culminated in 1,059 snaps. As it sits right now, in the base 4-3 defense, according to Carolina Panthers defensive line coach Todd Wash, Bravvion Roy is currently the 3rd string nose tackle behind 1st string in the undrafted free agent Marquand McCall from last year, as well as free agent acquisition John Penisini coming over from the Detroit Lions to play for his former coach Todd Wash. He said in a recent interview that those 2 guys are penciled in as the number 1 and number 2 guys, and it took him coming to the end of the video to even remember to bring up Bravvion Roy's name. So unfortunately, I do not believe that he will be a fixture in this pass rush rotation or in just in the defensive line rotation at all this upcoming season. A lot of that has to do with his lack of size, and that is a big reason why he was moved, or he fell to the 6th round. Being 330 pounds is good, but when you see that he is only 6'1", when you see him standing next to a guy like Derrick Brown, you just see like how inadequate his measurables may stand up to be. So at the end of the day, when the call has to be made on whether or not the Carolina Panthers should extend a contract to Bravvion Roy after his 3 years, or about to be soon to be 4 years of on his rookie contract, do I believe that they should offer him a contract? Unfortunately, I am going to have to say
It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
he got to get up out of here, man. Bravvion, unfortunately, the flashes that he has shown has not been enough for me to believe that the team will be willing to invest any more capital into him, especially after they have went out and signed Shai Tuttle in this offseason, brought over Deshaun Williams, who played for Ejiro, Evero with the Denver Broncos. I do not see a plan for Bravvion Roy in the near future, and when you get your spot taken by an undrafted free agent who was drafted 2 years after you've had, like as I mentioned, 2 years to develop in the NFL, I just don't see how that type of performance can be rewarded or rewarded with the extension of a new contract. So unfortunately, I believe Bravvion Roy will not be with us after this upcoming season, and he will not be getting the bag, man. So the next player that we are going to talk about is the second of the defensive linemen and the last of the defensive linemen, Yetur Weenie Hut Jr. Gross-Matos. This man that I've discussed in so many videos, and I have discussed with disgust so many times because I am disgusted at everything that I see week in and week out, at his lack of ability to pass rush and the lack of the ability to even sniff the quarterback. So Yetur Gross-Matos was drafted in the second round, 38th overall in the 2020 draft from Penn State. He played opposite of Micah Parsons, which might let you know why he was drafted so high now that we see how good Micah Parsons is. So in 3 seasons so far in the NFL, through 43 games and 26 starts, Yetur Gross-Matos has had 106 tackles, 20 QB hits, 12 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection, only 8.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles in 1,573 total defensive snaps. That is absolutely terrible. That is inadequate. That is ass, for lack of a better term, or I don't need a better term. That is just completely ass. That is the perfect term. When you have a guy that has been afforded a starting position and he is not able to put up the comparable stats to majority of the rookies that got starting time across the league on other teams, and he is not even able to be as productive as them, you're going to hear a lot of people try to make excuses for him and talk about how good he is and his ability to stop the run. Well, with us switching over to this 3-4, him being moved to outside linebacker, yes, he is expected to set the edge, but what we need him to do first and foremost and most of all is the ability to get to the quarterback, and he has not shown that in any way, shape, or form. He is currently, because of projecting last year's depth chart forward, he currently sits as the second outside linebacker, defensive end, however we're going to categorize it this year. But I have to say with all of my heart, if DJ Johnson shows any flashes whatsoever, I do not believe that the team will hesitate to take Yetur Gross-Matos off the field completely, put Marquise Haynes out there potentially, or DJ Johnson if they are not getting a adequate pass rush out of him, which personally I've seen enough. I don't think he'll be able to do, man. So when you ask me, do I think that the Carolina Panthers should extend a contract to Yetur Gross-Matos and bring him back to the team after the 2023 season, be it what I project him to do, I would have to say the answer to that is absolutely not. He can get the anytime. Like,
hey, so long. See you, sucker. Bon voyage. Arrivederci, later, loser. Goodbye. Good riddance. Peace out. Let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. Don't come back around here no more. Hasta visa. Kick rocks and get the hell out.
Thank you, Michael Kyle. He can do all of those things. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I've seen enough of Yetur Gross-Matos. There is not much that he'd be able to do this year. I have more hopes and higher hopes for Marquise Haynes as well as DJ Johnson, and hopefully over the next 90 days before the season starts, we will pull some rabbit out of a hat and get some veteran pass rush presence to rush opposite of Brian Burns. But I do not believe that guy will be Yetur Gross-Matos beyond this upcoming season, man. So now that we have discussed the defensive linemen, I think it's time that we move into the linebackers, but this is going to be the singular linebacker, and honestly, the only player that was not drafted by the Carolina Panthers, as this is this guy's second team. Who am I talking about? We are talking about that absolute sensation of a linebacker that we had last year in Frankie Luvu Jr., the undrafted linebacker from Washington in 2018, man. Frankie Louisville has been on the team for 2 years, but last year was the year that he absolutely broke out, got beyond special teams reps, actually got adequate and sufficient linebacker minutes, not minutes, this isn't basketball. It got linebacker snaps and was able to put up numbers that were comparable to people that were elected to the All-Pro team. In 15 games and only 14 starts, Frankie Luvu had 111 tackles, 7 sacks, 9 QB hits, 19 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 4 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. Now, I need to say that this is one of the best linebacker seasons from a Carolina Panther in history, and this goes along with guys that we have: Kuechly, Beeson, Thomas. You got to think about the lineage of linebackers that have come through here as of late and on the original teams. This is the first time in the near 30-year history of the Carolina Panthers organization that a linebacker has had over 100 tackles as well as 7 sacks. Frankie Luvu was the first person to do that, and I believe that he will have an even better season being schemed up in this absolutely what many believe to be marvelous defensive scheme that Ejiro Evero will be drawing up in these meeting room, man. So in my opinion, with what we saw out of Frankie Louisville, with the lack of direction from guys like Phil Snow and Al Holcomb and the last guys that were in the chair calling the plays. Now that we have an actual defensive coordinator that is going to be out there wearing that hat, I believe that this guy will have even more like an even greater season for the 2023 season. As I mentioned, even last year, his numbers were comparable and better, especially better than Matt Milano, who was elected to the All-Pro first team. Frankie Louisville outperformed that guy in every single way except for overall team success, which I personally do not believe should be much of a factor in these all pro things, as they are pretty much just stats awards, man. But with that being said, I don't necessarily know if we're going to be able to afford to bring Frankie Louisville back, man. I, with all of my heart, want Scott Fitterer to try to make it work in every way, shape, and in any way, shape, and form, man. Frankie Louisville is hands down the best free agent acquisition this franchise has had since Kurt Coleman back during our last Super Bowl run. He has been everything Kirk has been, maybe even plus more, except for the runs through the playoffs, man. But if he's able to put up comparable numbers as he did last year and even more, I don't know, with all of the talent that, including Brian Burns, Derek Brown, we have another guy later on in this list that we're going to get into, have to pay him, JC coming up, with all of these other young guys coming up, I don't know if the Carolina Panthers are going to be willing to invest that much money in Frankie Louisville to make him a top paid guy, especially just coming off the debacle of almost losing Shaq Thompson for paying an outside linebacker, big time linebacker money. But at this point in his career, Frankie Louisville, as I mentioned, was undrafted. This is his second team, and although he's played for 5 years, Frankie Louisville has only made about $10 million total in 5 years, and there will be no better time than after next year, if what I project for him to come true does come true, for Frankie Louisville to cash in and get the biggest payday potentially of his career. So I don't necessarily know if we will be able to afford that. I honestly don't think we will. If we can, I truly hope to God that we can bring him back. But if not, Frankie, I am not mad at you. All I gotta say, my boy, is now go and get your money, little duffel bag boy. Cause can't nobody stop you. Like, you've earned it. You've earned it with our team. I would hope that you would continue to do it. You've earned that money with our team. I hope that the team would give it to you, but I honestly don't think that that's going to happen. So at the end of the day, my answer for Frankie Louisville is, unfortunately, I think he is going to play his way out of the ability for the Carolina Panthers to be able to afford to sign him after this upcoming season, man. So now Let's move on to the last group of players, be it the secondary. The first player we are going to talk about, unfortunately, is CJ Burnt Toast Henderson, who has been with the Carolina Panthers for a season and a half now, and it has been a complete season of dread as he has been absolutely ass. Similar, or no, not even similar. He is much worse than Yetur Gross-Matos. CJ Henderson was drafted in the first round, 9th overall in the 2020 draft by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was shipped off in his second year. So that should tell you how they feel about a 9th overall pick, a top 10 pick being shipped out in the second year. But in 17 starts with the Carolina Panthers in the 2022 season, in 17 games and 10 starts, CJ Henderson had 58 tackles, 2 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, and 3 tackles for loss. Okay, those are the stats. Who gives a crap about those? Let's get into the actual numbers that tells you the story of who CJ Henderson really is. CJ Henderson, as a cornerback in coverage, gave up a 103.5 passer rating when targeted. He gave up 69% completion when he was the defender guarding whomever the ball was thrown at. He gave up in only 10 starts, 684 yards. That's almost 700 yards personally that his ass got burnt for. That's just terrible, man. That is just terrible. And he also gave up 5 touchdowns. All of that happening in only 765 snaps. As of right now, CJ Henderson sits as the third cornerback on the depth chart, potentially number 2, as we continue to monitor Dante Jackson's Achilles injury. I hope to the football gods that before the season gets in here, possibly CJ Henderson will be traded, as there has been murmurings and whispers around that. I don't know if those are actual reports or that's just wishful thinking on people around the Carolina Panthers organization and fandom. But hopefully before the season gets in here, undrafted free agent Rajan Wright will take this guy's spot. I am confident in his ability to do that, and hopefully the coaching staff will see that too, because I have saw all that I need to see out of CJ Burnt Toast Henderson, and of course his ass absolutely will not be getting the bag after this season. He, just like Yetur Gross-Matos, can do this. Talk to him, Michael Cal.
Hey, so long. See you, sucker. Bon voyage. Arrivederci, later, loser. Goodbye, good riddance. Peace out. Let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. Don't come back round here no more. Hasta visa, kick rocks, and get the hell out.
Easy. That's all. That's all we need you to do, because we do not need you to contaminate the secondary. We do not need you to give up over 200 yards to Mike Evans and keep us out of the playoffs anymore. We don't need your ass for that. I can give up over 200 yards for Mike Evans, and I'm fat and out of shape. Well, I ain't fat, but I'm out of shape. Anyway, we don't need you for that. But anyway, so of course, CJ Henderson can get his ass off of my team now. And we're approaching 20 minutes here, man, so I'm going to wrap it up with this last player in the secondary, that being Jeremy Chinn, the hybrid safety / linebacker who was drafted in the second round, 64th overall in the 2020 draft. Jeremy Chinn has been an absolute monster through 3 years. Do not let anybody that wants to spin the coverage narrative that's all that he does. So that's what he's bad at. So therefore that's all that he's good for, though. So therefore he's a bad player. Don't listen to any of that BS, man. Jeremy Chinn has been everything that the Carolina Panthers could have hoped for in a second round pick, plus more, man. In the 2022 season, he only appeared in 11 games, 11 starts, of course, as he has been a day one starter since the moment he was drafted. In 11 starts, he had 70 tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections, all of that in 683 snaps. Now, as I mentioned, this season was unfortunately cut short due to injury, but to keep in context of just how good Jeremy Chinn has been through 3 years in the NFL since he's been drafted. He was only the 3rd Carolina Panthers rookie ever to tally over 100 tackles as a rookie. The only other two guys to do it, be it Luke Kuechly and John Beeson, some all-time great linebackers drafted right here in Carolina, and he would have been the third player to start his career with 3 straight 100 tackle seasons had he not been injured according to what his per game averages were up to this point in the 2022 season. Now, Jeremy Chinn, with the addition of Ejiro Evero, I think is going to be absolute fireworks. The team, the coaching staff, the head coach, everybody has talked about him as wearing many capes, as him potentially being somewhat of a superhero in this defense for what Ejiro Evero is going to want him to do. Not being bogged down to one position, but using that tremendous versatility as the asset, as the team always should have been doing for him, and playing him all over the field. And with that being said, with the Carolina Panthers being expected, in my opinion, to improve as a team this upcoming season, a lot of their players, aside from Brian Burns, who got it last year, I expect to get a lot more consideration for Pro Bowls and these awards and all the other stuff that comes with it, but mostly just the Pro Bowl. And I believe that with the addition of Ejiro Evero and with Jeremy Chinn, he will be able to get him there. I'm not going to go too in-depth on why, because I recently dropped a video about why I think Ejiro Evero and Jeremy Chinn are a perfect match. Go check that out after you watch this video if you don't have nothing else to do, man. But to wrap this all up, do I think that the Carolina Panthers should invest the bag in Jeremy Chinn and make sure that we bring him back after the conclusion of his rookie contract, man? The answer to that is pay that man. Like, what are we talking about? I don't know why this guy has so many haters within this fan base when all he's done is come out and ball. He's shown that he is a linebacker. He was asked to be a safety just because he had growing pains in a new position that he had not yet played in the NFL. People wanted to dog him, and I understand that the team had been down at the time, but it ain't have nothing to do with Jeremy Chinn. And I believe that the coaching staff and the general managers and the higher-ups, everybody will recognize that Jeremy Chinn is one of the most dynamic young players that this team has drafted in its history, despite what many contrarian-ass fans would like to say all over Twitter, man. But with that being said, those are my thoughts on the 5 upcoming players, or on 5 upcoming players, which I think are the most important 5 upcoming players that the Carolina Panthers have after the 2023 season. Their contract is up. Who will we pay? Those are my thoughts. All of this. I'm getting scrambled at this point in the video. I've been talking for over 20 minutes, man. But what do you all think about these acquisitions? Should we bring any of these guys back? Did I get anything wrong? Am I right on the money? Whatever you all think, leave your comments down below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to get to you and chop it up with you. But with that being said, man, I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.